Yeah, I did the keto diet. This was a very interesting experiment. And I'm going to say right off the bat, I'm going back on keto. So, my original goal was to go on keto for 2 months. I ended up only doing 1 month, and I'll explain why in just a little bit. Keto, so for those of you who don't know, keto is a low carb diet. Some people will even do no carbs, which is ridiculous. And let me preface by saying you should do your own research before. You always do your own research, not just when listening to me, even when listening to professionals like talking about stuff. Like, do research and hear things from multiple perspectives. I just want to preface by saying I'm not an expert on keto at all. I'll just talk about the research that I've done and the my understanding of keto and my own experiment with it. So doing no carb keto is probably it would be ideal. The thing is, by doing no carb keto, you will cut out a lot of like vegetables, for example. Vegetables are pretty essential because of all the other nutrients they have in them, like the vitamins, the minerals, electrolytes, and so on, which are essential for the body, right? Carbs itself are not essential for the body. It's the only one of the three macronutrients that the body actually doesn't need. Your body normally runs on carbohydrates for energy, but it can also use protein or fat for energy. And so when you change out carbs or you disregard carbs to a low carb diet, your body will start using fat as energy. And this is beneficial for multiple reasons. First of all, carbohydrates will spike your insulin levels a lot. And I think that is essentially the main reason for doing a low carb diet, is because a high insulin level is just the cause of a ridiculous amount of diseases. Diabetes being, of course, the big one, heart disease, and for mental health as well, which was something I noticed. The keto diet made my mind so fucking clear. I cannot, like, being out of keto, wow. This was like the benefit that I can't even fathom it. I felt so clear in my head. I was able to focus so good, and I was just not as tired regularly. Excuse me, burps. It was incredible how much it cleared my head going low carbs. It was really strange. Now, this was one of the benefits that I was aware of, that people have talked about getting, but I, like, having never tried to feel this way before, you don't know. Like, you can expect that you will feel different, but before you actually feel this way, you just don't know what it feels like. And now I'm off keto and actually eating a little bit worse than I should be. Like, I want to switch. I want to kind of cut out the starchy carbs. Even though I don't want to go on keto right now, I still want to kind of get rid of a lot of the starchy carbs. Because I do feel like they're to blame somehow. Of course, there are tons of other different types of carbs, right? But where was I getting at? Yeah, those were one of the benefits that were just amazing. Now, okay, there were disadvantages, or at least for me, about going on the keto, which was why I stopped a month earlier. I would have loved to have gone 2 months, because 1 month was not long enough to really get the full experience, I guess. Because most people will not start to go into ketosis until, like, some people, it will take a month, sometimes more than a month, to get into ketosis. Most people, I think, go into ketosis 2 weeks into getting into keto. And so, oh, by the way, I should say I did intermittent fasting as well, keto and intermittent fasting. So I would fast for 18 hours and eat for 6 hours. Wow, where do I even begin? Like, there's so much I want to cover on this topic because it's fascinating, man. Nutrition is something that I've been so fascinated by the past many years, ever since I started working out, actually. I slowly got into nutrition, and my interest in nutrition has been this exponential curve. The more I learn about nutrition, the more fascinated I get about it. There's just an endless amount of information about it, and it is fucking insane how much it affects your body, your mental health, everything. It is beyond crazy, and people, you should, if you don't already think about your nutrition, you should really start to look into it. And I understand it's one of those things that, because there is just an endless amount of information out there, both false information, information that is correct, and information that we don't necessarily even know if it's correct or not. Because there's just so much information about nutrition out there, it's overwhelming, and I get it, okay? I get it. It's so overwhelming for me as well. I feel like every time I think that, okay, I know quite a lot about nutrition, like a new subject will surface and that I've never even heard about, and I'll be like, wow, I know nothing. It's like, so people don't have time to look into nutrition because, okay, now, eating healthily, okay, you should eat pasta, vegetables, get your protein, fat, and carbs. Like, that's like the basis that we've been told always. Okay, wait, now there's keto, where you shouldn't eat carbs all of a sudden. Like, and it's overwhelming is what I'm trying to get at. And I understand that people don't have time or the mental capacity to think about nutrition this heavily on a daily basis. People are busy and they're tired from working. And yeah, I get it. But please do yourself the favor and at least just slowly start getting into nutrition, because your life will improve tremendously. Like, I've experimented with a lot of different diets, and I talked about this on the last solo episode 19, I believe, Going Home. If you haven't listened to that, maybe do that after listening to this one, because I go into a little bit about how I felt eating like shit for 5 months while I was in Florida. I came home, starting eating cleaner, felt better. Went on keto, felt better in some areas and worse in some areas, which I do definitely want to get into in just a bit. So, eating healthy, knowing what to eat, makes a tremendous difference in your life. Please do yourself the favor. Start looking into nutrition. It's amazing how good you feel when you eat strong and healthy foods. Okay. Now, wow. Again, like, there's so much I want to cover. Maybe I'll return to this keto subject in another episode. But I do want to say, even though I felt amazing, like, in my mind on the keto diet, I also experienced some really bad things. First of all, I lost weight like that, and that was mainly because it's water weight. You drop a lot of water because I believe just carbs in general will hold on to the water in your body. When you lose the carbs, you will drop water weight, which is why, amongst other, like your electrolytes, like sodium, salt especially, is very important when you go on keto, because that helps keep the water a little bit better in your body, from my understanding. So, but for some reason, I was like I felt dehydrated all the time, even though I felt like I was getting a lot of salt and the other electrolytes that are essential for keeping the water in your body. But and I was really scared to that I was eating too much salt, because too much sodium is also not bad. So again, going back to the whole thing of like, where do you even start? Like, okay, one thing is good for you, but too much of that thing is also bad for you now. Like, it's overwhelming. I was really scared that I was eating too much salt. So I don't know. I was kind of on the edge of that, but I guess I wasn't eating enough salt since I was dropping so much water. I don't know. Maybe I was doing something else wrong, which again, I probably didn't do this keto thing correct. This was my first time attempting it. I've definitely done a few things wrong. I was starving myself. That's another thing, which was the definite reason I stopped the keto early. I was just not getting enough food, which was strange because I felt like within that 6 hour window of eating, my goodness, there's like so many things I want to talk about this thing. It's so crazy. With it, I was intermittent fasting, which was the real problem for me, I think, not the actual keto diet, because what I was eating, it was fine. Like, I didn't have necessarily that many carb cravings, maybe in the beginning. What I was eating was fine. It was delicious. It was good food. Um, the intermittent fasting part was the really hard part for me, because I was just so fucking hungry in my fasting period, and I lost so much sleep. I couldn't sleep because I would just lay there in bed at night being so hungry. My stomach would just ache. I would have a headache. I would feel really good in my eating period. In those 6 hours, I would feel amazing. And then my fasting period, for the most part, I would feel like shit. I felt so bad. Which was, and I believe that because I was definitely starving. I was losing weight. I've never been as lean in my entire life as I was the last few days I was in keto, both because of the lost water weight and because I was starving myself. I didn't eat enough food. But it was strange because I was used to eating 4 or 5 smaller meals a day before going on keto, and now I would eat 2 very large meals a day. And because those meals felt so large, it was hard for me to eat enough food in one sitting because I was not used to it. So I just wouldn't get enough food from those 2 meals, and which was the whole reason I starved, of course. And so I think it's important to notice that there's a difference between starving and fasting. And I was definitely starving in my fasting period. Yeah. Again, so what I will do different next time I go on keto is get more food, do more research on the bad things, the bad symptoms that I had, why I have them, how to get rid of them. And because that mental clarity is really what I want to get back to, is what I miss right now, not being on keto. I felt so good mentally. It was crazy. I just don't, like, I've been missing out my entire life. And again, and this is where I'll end this thing here, because I'm going over time on this topic, but there's just so much to discuss. And I would love to talk to a keto specialist or scientist, expert, whatever, about this topic, because, man, it's fascinating. It is really, really deep. There's so much to this low-carb diet. And overall, I do believe in the keto diet. I think the intermittent fasting is the part that is going to be the hardest for people, because a low carb diet is really not that hard. Like, the food you eat is pretty delicious. Like, high fatty food is delicious. You know, bacon and eggs, a lot of meat. Meat is always delicious. I will never go vegan. Actually, I will. I want to try the vegan diet as well. I love experimenting with diets. I want to try that at some point, see how I feel. Okay. Yeah, this is where I'll end off this topic or this discussion with myself, essentially. Do your own research before you jump into anything in life, not just the keto diet, not just nutrition. Don't take my word for it. You might experience different symptoms or you might experience different benefits than I did on the keto diet. Please do your research beforehand.